This episode is brought to you by Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Summer mocktail smoothies are here for a limited time at Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Mocktail hour on the pool deck is a sip away. Ooh, that rhymes. Tropical Smoothie Cafe has over 1,400 locations across the U.S. Their mocktails will be available all summer long.
Allison Rosen is your new best friend. Allison, with her the good times never end. Allison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Allison's your new best friend.
Hey everyone. Hi, hello. Welcome to another exciting episode of Allison Rosen is your new best friend. I'm sitting here in my studio with novelist, cookbook author, TV host, return guest, woman who has a name that is remarkably mine, and a husband with the same name as mine, Ali Rosen. Hello.
So excited to be back with you.
It's very, very exciting to have you back. You first came on in 2012. Nope, 2018.
2018. Yeah, I'm like, what is time?
2012. Why did I say that? That's when this podcast started. I don't know. 2018. At that point, you had one child. You had, I think, one cookbook.
Yeah.
Now you have 3 cookbooks, 2 romance novels, and 3 children.
Yeah, I've multiplied.
You're metastasizing.
I'm taking it very seriously the be fruitful and multiply commandments.
Exactly.
Have to do it all.
So we need to get into all of that. Yeah. But what I was going to say is since 2018, my mouth wants to say 2012. Since 2018, I have tried at various points to get you back on the show. There was discussion during the pandemic. It was a discussion of like, what kind of microphones do you have, et cetera. But then you're in town. Tonight you're doing a reading for reading signing.
I think a talk.
Are you in conversation with?
I'm in conversation with. Yeah, reading from my own books makes me want to like shed out of my own skin.
Okay, you're in conversation with someone at a bookstore tonight for your new romance novel, Alternate Endings, and I leaped on the opportunity. I said, "Oh my God, okay, do you have time to come on my show?"
And I said yes, absolutely. I will be there. Tell me when.
I know, which is really the response I want everyone to have. So thank you for showing everyone how it's done.
I just feel like because we live these parallel coast lives with the same names and the same husband, it's like I'm always like rooting for you and excited to like see your name pop up in my DMs.
Aw, thank you.
So I was just like, obviously I will be there.
Someone recently sent me one of your posts about the book and was like, did you write this in high school? Because there's a story that I tell on the show, which is for a little time in high school, I decided that I wanted to be known as Ali Michelle with a heart over the I.
Oh, I did that with Ali.
Yeah.
The heart.
Now, what's your middle name?
My middle name is Lyle, which no one can explain to me why. And then I gave my daughters the middle name Lyle. So we're just all going to have this weird middle name that no one likes. And we'll just keep it going because it was my mom's middle name too. And no one knows why. But yeah, I'm an Alexandra.
Right. I know, which is like, it's like a cold blast of water on my face when I don't want that.
It's not
not refreshing.
Yeah. And it's sad because I tried to make Xandra happen for a while.
Xandra!
That was my middle school or high school like name attempt. And it did not stick.
With a Z or with an X?
Oh, with an X.
Oh, Xandra.
Yeah.
That is very cool. Kewl.
Yeah. It did not last though.
Like Xandra Lyle. I could be Ali Michelle and you could be Xandra Lyle.
Right.
We'd be the coolest ever.
We sound like a superhero duo.
Yes. Or we sound like 2 girls wanting to be cool.
Right. We sound like insecure teenagers who just desperately want a cooler name.
I follow a woman on Instagram. She's an actress and her name is Zandy, Zandy. And she's an Alexandra.
Interesting.
I feel like with Alexandra, usually you get Alex or Sasha.
Yeah, my mom was obsessed with Ally McGraw. Like my parents liked love stories, so they
as were mine. And
but they gave you the actual name.
They did. They gave me the she must be an Allison. I don't know.
They're all Allisons. There's no. I mean, I've met in my whole life one other Alexandra Allie, and I think it's just my parents wanted to call me Allie, but they liked the name Alexandra, and so.
Did you like this other one?
Ooh, good question. I don't know if I knew them well enough.
Okay.
But I mean, I felt a kindred exhaustion with them for having to explain that, that they're not an Allison, because that's what everyone assumes.
And see, I'm kind of in, as you're in conversation with, I'm in community with, I'm going to say, a few other Allison Rosens.
Yes.
We get each other's emails, we communicate. And when you were last on, I had them call in and leave voicemails. Do you remember?
Yes.
I thought about doing it again, but then I was like, I feel like it's the exact same thing. Yeah, exactly. It would be the exact same thing. But are you also connected to other Ali Rosens or Allison Rosens?
You're my only one that
I kind of love
actively
that.
keep up with.
Thank
I mean,
you.
I've been, confused for people, but most of them I'm like, goodbye.
Yeah.
There is an Ali Rosen who's a bikini fitness model. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah, I have, because when I have Googled myself.
Right, but
She's very sinewy.
Sinewy is the perfect word, but she got married and changed her last name. So
she
that's been
did?
good for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because for a while people thought like the Twitter bio of the girl on all fours in a bikini was me. And she looks good. So it wasn't like an insult. It's just not me. It wasn't
Do you feel like if you were a fitness model, that's what you would look like? Because I don't think I could ever build that much muscle. Tony, she's all muscle.
All right.
She's like very tanned and very muscular.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think, exercising for me is a struggle to begin with. So I can't even imagine what that would be. Like I exercise twice a week and I have to be forced into it. Like there's no world where I could be a fitness model.
What do you do?
I do Pilates and I have a great Pilates instructor whose name is Sky. And she basically is my therapist more than my Pilates instructor. So I need her for my emotional stability.
Mm-hmm.
So I go along with the exercise portion of it.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, but I hate it.
Because I don't exercise nearly. I used to do it all the time, and I'm like very bad about it. Although on Saturday I did exercise for 40 minutes, so I was proud of myself. Like I'm turning over a new leaf. But I really like therapy. I get a ton out of it. What if my therapist incorporated some movement?
Yeah, it would be great.
It
and you
would
have to
be.
have them show up to your house. That's how I did it. Because
Okay.
if I signed up for classes, then I could not show up, whereas someone showing up at your house, you can't not let them in.
Do you have a Pilates machine, or does Sky bring one?
No, during the pandemic, I bought one because I used to do classes and I have a bad back because we can be old and talk about our back problems. But I
feel like I'm just starting to get one.
Yeah, it's really delightful.
And a shoulder thing.
Yeah, it's great. This is how we'll just keep up with each other every few years as we age and complain about our ailments.
Become shorter.
Yeah, but exactly. But I started doing Pilates because of my back stuff, and then during COVID, I had 2 newborns, so I was just like, I need to be exercising. So I bought a reformer. And then once it was like safe to be around humans again, I was like, I would do it for like 15 minutes and be like, I'm amazing. I exercise. And it's like, this isn't real. So I needed a human.
Tony, I realized I didn't say hi to you. I just said it. Tony, some people might not realize that I have a problem remembering to say hi to you.
Well, if they listen to the show, they know.
I know, but I'm just assuming there's going to be an influx of new people. Like,
All right,
because
that's fair.
Ali Rosen is bringing in the Ali Rosen crowd.
Right.
The Allison
right.
Rosen crowd
Yeah.
knows.
They
I
might
just assumed
want.
it was the same crowd,
Yeah, they follow both.
We don't
of
know.
us.
Yeah. Hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
How is it going?
It's going all right. Yeah, I don't know. I was traveling and a little tired, but we'll get through it.
Okay, good. And
Yeah.
you went to a wedding, yes?
I did, yes.
And you played at this wedding?
Yes, I went as both a friend and I had to play the wedding reception as well.
Tony is a rock star
mean.
drummer.
It's mean of your friends.
Well-
to make you play. Or did you do that thing where you offered not thinking that they would take you up on it?
No, but
they hired him.
Yeah, he is
Oh.
the guy who got married is a drummer. I'm a drummer, and I have played with this wedding band from time to time. And so since it was his wedding, obviously he's not going
he
to
can't
play. So
Aw, that's nice.
yeah,
Okay.
and this is a way to do a wedding though, to go to your friend's wedding
Yeah.
and be paid.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
have your travel and hotel covered too.
Oh yeah. Well, if they paid you, then that's all above board.
Yeah.
I'm very happy for you.
Thank you.
Wait, I have a question. He's a drummer. You're a drummer, but you guys have played in a wedding band together.
Yeah.
A 2-drummer band.
No, he just they're just very generous and have had me come out from time to time. And when that happens, he's kind of like in charge of everything for them, and so he handles a lot of the stuff. But then he also can play guitar, so he'll play some guitar when I'm playing drums. Yeah,
like when the manager of a restaurant like serves your food or something.
Yes.
And you're like, oh wow, you wear 2 hats here.
Exactly. I would argue he might wear 3.
What's the third?
I don't know, just
Manager, drummer,
Yeah,
guitar
there you go.
player.
Groom this weekend.
yeah. There you go. Yeah.
So-
How were the vows?
They were great. It was all very, very nice. Yeah, it was. It looked like I was telling her before we started. The weather was supposed to be terrible, and then it ended up being perfect weather because they did it outside, and ended up being everything was great.
Good.
Yeah.
How was do you know, Tony knows. I don't think you would know, Ali, my whole weather at my wedding story.
No, wait, but no, you had some of it in your book. No.
Probably.
Yeah.
I probably did. Yes, I think I did. Thank you. I have a book.
You have a great book.
We got to talk about books. But anyway, it was maybe going to be raining or maybe going to be like overcast, which I love. I don't necessarily love rain on my hair, but I think wedding photos in the rain look so pretty because everything's like shiny and sparkling. And I hate the heat and I hate sun. And it happened. So it was not supposed to be a sunny day. And then it happened to be that the sun came out and it was like 85 degrees. And I have never seen the sun so bright. And like, I just was like squinting, walking down the aisle, and the sun was just bouncing off of my lipstick, which was the wrong color. And I did put this in my book, I'm pretty sure. The makeup artist, when I pointed it out, she said, "That ship has sailed, sister."
Oh my God.
It was so rude.
What a bitch.
It was really like, maybe micellar water hadn't been invented. I don't know. I think it was going to like make a mess to try to take it off and put on the right color, sister, but it pissed me off. It was just so fucking bright.
How old were you when you got married?
I was 38.
Yeah. See, that's at least you're like old enough to be like, I got married very young. I got married when I was 27 and I was basically a child bride by New York standards. And
yeah.
I hated my makeup on my wedding day, but I just was like, oh, I don't know any better. And now I look back on it, and now every wedding that I'm in or do, I do my own makeup because I don't want someone touching my face with stuff I've never used before.
It didn't even occur to me. My friend Jenna did her own makeup too, and she's like, yeah, because I know what makes me look good.
Yeah.
It didn't even occur to me to do that. So wait, what was the makeup at your wedding like?
It was just too much. Like I like makeup. I grew up in the South, so it's sort of like, compulsory, but I don't wear like heavy makeup. And it was, my eyes had a lot of makeup. My lipstick was, and then my hair was up because everyone told me, your hair has to be up or it'll get messy. And I just look at it now and I'm like, just doesn't look like me, So I think if I had been older and wiser, I wouldn't trade the year, whatever. I wouldn't trade the marriage years.
Right.
But I think, like, I thought that I knew what I was doing, but when I'm in weddings now, I just don't let anyone touch me.
And do the people getting married, are they always cool with that? With you being like, I'm not going to partake of your vendors.
I try as a wedding bridesmaid or participant to be as low key as humanly possible.
That's so nice.
That's my attempt.
That's kind.
But we'll see. I try to not make it about me, which I don't know why so many people feel that they are the main character when they're in someone else's wedding. You're distinctly not the main character.
Weddings truly bring out the worst in everyone.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why that is, but they do.
Yeah, it just brings up a lot of feelings.
It does. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Speaking of feelings, let's talk about your books because this, you were not yet a novelist that I'm aware of when we last talked. And then now you have 2 very popular, very successful novels out.
Thanks to my publicist.
Explain, please.
Oh, explain. Okay. During COVID, like everyone, I had sort of the human mental breakdown that people have when they're isolated in a pandemic. And I'd been working on a cookbook and I was reading a lot because I couldn't stare at screens more because everything was Zooms and I was really enjoying reading romance books, rom-coms, things that all had happy endings. And I got an idea for something and I started writing it and I really enjoyed the process of writing. I'd never really thought about writing a novel because I'd always been like, well, if you write a novel, you have to be a serious novelist. And I was like, oh, I started reading great books by writers where the writing was excellent, but it didn't take itself that seriously. And I was like, oh, maybe I could do that, and I started writing it and I really enjoyed it. And I sent, a draft to my, cookbook agent, and she was like, great, but I don't do this. So I was like, oh, okay, I really have to like start again, like totally start again. And I was like, well, I'll just send it out to agents. And if somebody likes it, then that means it's fine and it could go somewhere. And if not, I'll just sort of stick it in a drawer and let it go. Because it's not like my great life dream to have write. It wasn't something I was like harboring.
And this was
inside me.
Recipe for Second Chances, right?
This was my first novel, Recipe for Second Chances. Yeah, which is set at a wedding. Speaking of weddings, set at a wedding in Italy. But yeah, so it just. But now I sort of can't imagine not. I don't know, right? It's. I think it's very freeing when you sort of allow yourself to write what you want to write rather than what you feel that you should write or what is serious or important. And I've been lucky enough with my cookbooks that it's like my cookbooks are all very much aimed at the laziest of people, and I've been allowed to do that. So I feel like rom-coms are kind of the same thing of like, it's just happy. They're just happy books, It's like, just give me an escape and let me have fun. And I think that books are doing that better than TV right now in many ways, because I feel like we're in this TV era of prestige and trying to be cool. And
you didn't think Baby Reindeer was a vacation for your mind?
Like my brain can't handle stuff like that. I think like something broke me in 2020, and I just can't handle stuff like that anymore. And even the things where everyone's like, this is a fun, rom-com. It's like, is it? Like, are we having fun today? Okay. So yeah, there's something like, I just wanted to like enjoy myself. So that's what writing became for me. Reading and writing became for me.
So you sent it to agents starting over, and then what happened?
I had some agents that liked it. And then the agent that I ended up going with is this woman, Wendy Sherman, who basically said to me, I think this is fabulous. I would like to sign you. And also I'd like to have an hour-long call with you where I tell you everything that's wrong about it and bad about it. And I was like, oh, this is who I need, because I don't know anything. I mean, I don't have an MFA. I'm a writer and I've always been a writer, and I certainly identify as a writer, but I don't have some training specifically in writing fiction. So I was like, oh, this is the person that I need who won't bullshit me, because I'm also someone who like, I love feedback. I don't mind. I don't like criticism if it's like rude or
on Instagram.
On Instagram, anti-Semitic. I was going to say you and I have both dealt with that.
Yes, you're actually catching some flack for things I've written.
Yeah, but I enjoy it. I'm proud to catch all your strays.
Thank you.
And yeah, but I'm a person who like, I sort of feel like feedback is kind of like secret cheating. Like, oh, like someone's going to tell me how to make my thing better when I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is great, So yeah, so I just like loved her from the minute that I met her, and she pitched it out, and someone bought it. And so here we are.
And so what kind of feedback was it?
Just like, things like, this character, like you need to have more depth in these people. Some of the friends, she's like, I need some more backstory on it. I think in the beginning, the main character, Stella, was a little sluttier for no reason. And she was like, like there's a point at which like, we get it. Okay. Like you don't need to make everyone think she's like a degenerate. So she's, and listen, people still hate her. I mean, the best thing about writing fiction is that, people think that they can insult the main character, and that, I think people think they can say anything online anyway. But, the people that love her, because she's a very anxious person. And so some people really feel very seen by her, and some people truly hate her and think she's horrible. So that's been really fun.
Does she do things that are questionable?
I mean,
aside from sleeping with everyone.
Aside from being
a
delightfully
real
slutty. The book is set in two timelines. I mean, it's a second chance romance. So she's 20 years old in part of the book, and then the other part of the book is she sees this ex at a wedding in Italy.
Second chance romance is a term that I've encountered a lot, and I think I know it. I've encountered a lot in reading about books. I think I know what it means, but what is the definition of that?
Yeah, romance land has so much terminology that it's you know, you and I both, it's like the fertility stuff, you know, it's like you sort of enter it and you're like, what is all this lingo?
I think we'll start with IUI and then we'll move on to
exactly. Right. And you're like, what? And romance community is like that. Second chance romance is basically just people who've dated in the past and you know, they're coming back together for whatever reason. There's all the, you know, it's like the tropes of like workplace romance, friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, you know, whatever. And second chance is one of those. So second chance just means they dated in the past. But in this particular book, you see that past. But they're 20 years old and she wasn't ready. So people don't like that a 20-year-old woman wasn't ready to be in a serious committed relationship and knew everything that she wanted. So that's what people dislike about her. So are her choices questionable? Not for her, you know, like she hurts him because she was 20 years old. So I don't know. So a lot of people, you know, it's like men can do no wrong. This man is particularly dreamy in this book. So everyone's like, she hurt him. What a bitch. And it's like, okay, but this isn't his story. It's her story. And she had to get there. And, you know, it's a romance. So like, spoiler alert, she gets there. I mean, so I don't know. But yeah, it's sort of, it's been really funny. Like the people who love it. And the people who don't like complex women, you know, and then you go and look on somebody's thing. Not that I ever do this and go deep into haters' profiles, but it's like, they'll then be like, I read this, you know, story about a man and the man is, you know, like a murderer, billionaire, you know, psycho, whatever. But like, he's so dreamy. And it's like this woman like rejected a man when she was 20. And it's like, I hate her. So yeah, misogyny.
It's interesting. Do you think the people that loathe her are, how do I articulate this question? I feel like this is a very clumsy question. Are there a lot of people reading the book and having opinions about it that maybe have different values than you do? Well, you already said there are people who don't like complex women.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I very much don't like to yuck anyone's yum, both on food things and reading things, because I think everyone should be like entertainment, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else. Like I say, go for it, you know? And I think especially in the romance space, there is a lot of judgment. You know, it gets called smut, it gets called, you know, whatever. So to me, it's like, if you would like to read, you know, books about like falling in love with inanimate objects, like live your dreams and enjoy that. But
are there books about that?
Oh yeah. Oh, it's a whole subgenre.
What's it called?
My favorite is there's a book called Squeak that's about people who turn into balloon animals, and we learn about the sexy things that you can do as balloon animals.
Oh my God.
There's a whole subgenres that you could go into. So it's like,
taking all my energy not to just dive headlong into that topic.
Not just go deep into that.
Like, are these actual books one can hold? Are these ebooks? Are these? I
mean, I think they range. You know,
all of it.
I think it's all of it. I think that publishing, you know, there's a very popular series called Ice Planet Barbarians that went from being self-published to being real, picked up by a traditional publisher and has taken the world by storm. So yeah, people can.
Ice Planet Barbarians?
Yeah.
And so they live on an ice planet and they're brutes.
I think somehow some humans get onto I have not personally, it's not, again, no yucking anyone's yum. It is not my preferred genre, but my impression of it is that there are humans who somehow get to the ice planets and then fall in love with these creatures that have many long appendages, is my impression.
Got it. I mean, it's not that different than Twilight.
No, well, exactly. I mean, this is the thing. It's like people who are like, oh my God, this stuff. And it's like, do you read Mary Shelley? You read Frankenstein? Like it's all there in literature. It's just some
Frankenstein, that old romance novel.
But you know what I mean?
I
like
do.
Monsters and things have been there. But yes, no, Twilight, I think, was the biggest of them all. But yeah, I mean, you know, there's everything. So I don't mind when people dislike my books. I do mind the misogyny of it. I mind.
And is it primarily coming from women?
It's almost all coming from women. I mean, that's the thing that's fascinating. I don't mind, like, you know, I had one person review it and like count the number of F words in the book. And I'm like, okay, well then, like, I'm not for you, you know, like
how many were there?
It's not that. I mean, I don't think of it as like that. You know, it's like
and what is the right amount?
I don't know. And I also think it's funny because I'm like, well, if you read my books, you should read Ice Planet Barbarians. So, I mean, it's like my books are, you know, they're not chaste, but they're not. I mean, there's much there's much
Yeah.
more happening than in my book. So I don't know. But I think that in general, women, I often find that a lot of the books that I love, when I look at reviews of them, they have sort of that polarizing effect. And so I wouldn't want to write any differently. I wouldn't want to write women that are not interesting or never do anything wrong. I personally just don't find that interesting as a reader. So, you have to write what you want to write and what you would want to read. But yeah, I mean, I think in general, especially in the romance genre, there is this sort of view in some people's minds that the women should be, if they have a problem, it should be that they're clumsy, or it should be that, it shouldn't be like that they have, they can't have like real anxiety as a person. Like that's very annoying to someone. It's like, well, I'm sorry. Like as an anxious person, like this is what my life is, and in the new book, Alternate Endings, it's a woman who's getting divorced and she's had a lot of fertility problems. And, it's a lot of stuff where I'm like, it's still romance. It's still comedic. It's still light. But I mean, she's dealing with some shit. Otherwise, it's not a very interesting story, like two people who just, fall in a lake and fall in love. Like, I mean, that's just like not interesting to me, but, you don't have to read it.
So when you sat down to write these books, how did you start with the idea of a story, or did you start with characters?
Kind of both. I mean, I think the first book sort of came from a conversation with a friend where I was like, I met my husband very young. We were 19 when we met, and everyone's always surprised that we stayed together. Like, oh, and like, did you break up for a little? And I'm like, no. And somebody asked me at one point, like, do you think that if you guys had broken up, would you have found your way back to each other? And I loved this idea of, meant to be, but in a less, like not like an evil stepmother pulled you away, but just like somebody wasn't ready, and I was kind of lucky because my husband just is who he is and decided that all of my insecurities and, not believing in things, that he just like wasn't going to let me do that. So I certainly tried to be casual with him for as long as I could, and he didn't allow me to be that. But I sort of was like, oh, this would be such an interesting idea, especially in the romance space where it's not often the woman that is sort of the uncommitted one or the one that has the issues. And I just thought that was interesting. And then I also had a friend who's Indian, who was going to have a wedding in Italy. And it was like, I was like really excited about this idea. And then she decided not to do it. So I'd always loved this idea of like an Italian Indian wedding in Italy. And I was like, that would be such a great location for something. So like sort of those two things came together. And so that was sort of the genesis of that. Now it's like, I mean, I have a notes app thing a mile long of like ideas for books. And it sort of starts with like the germ of an idea. And then it fills out, or the people fill out. And sometimes, most people are not, I mean, as much as my friends keep trying to be like, this person is based on this person. It's like, no one is an exact carbon copy of anyone, but like little pieces of people sort of make their way in. So yeah, it's a fun process because you sort of find out who the characters are as you write them. Sometimes it's like you start and think it's going to go in one direction and then it sort of moves. And so yeah, it's fun. It's different than cookbooks because cookbooks are much more prescribed. You have to, I mean, each recipe kind of lives and dies on its own, whereas fiction is just so much more of a whole. So it's it's been a fun experiment. And the more that I write, the more I feel like I know, like I hope every book is better than the previous, not to like minimize the first book, but yeah, it's been a fun learning process.
And when do you write? Because I saw on Instagram you said you have 7 jobs.
Yeah, well, people were giving me shit about buying Taylor Swift tickets with one of my daughters, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, how much did that cost you?" And I'm like, I do so many things. Like, give me a break. Yeah, like I make money. Like, let me do it. Well, with the first book, I wrote it all at night. Like I wasn't in, it was sort of really that burnout of like, I wasn't watching anything, I couldn't watch stuff at night. So I was writing at night. Now I allow myself to write during the day because I'm getting paid for it. So that's been a really delightful turnaround. But yeah, I'm someone who like, if I'm in a project, I'm really in it. So I'm like, I go deep into something. So I'm either like fully writing or not writing. Like I'm not able to.
So you're not like I write for an hour every morning.
I can't do that. I feel like I admire people who can do that, but it's so much to hold an entire book in your head and remember, like what you said and what the characters were doing and what was happening. And so to me, it's like I need to fully immerse myself in it, write a draft, and then I can step away from it for a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like I need to be start to finish, everything's done. I actually think the space is good because then you reread it and you're like, oh, right, like that doesn't connect.
So when you're writing the draft, you're like all in for a number of days.
Yeah, I need to. Yes. I mean, it happened with the first book when I didn't really know like if it was going to turn into anything, but subsequently seems to be the process that works for me. So, which is good. So what's nice is now I can be like, I'm going to block out this month to be writing, and I'm sure there will be some day where I'll do that and then can't come up with anything. But for the moment, it's been okay.
So tell me about how your daughters got here.
Yeah,
I know that was
a fun fertility adventure.
That was. I read something you wrote in. Was it Washington Post?
Yeah. I wrote about. It was interesting because it was a fertility journey that turned into a surrogacy journey, and I was sort of shocked. Not having known anything about that, I was sort of shocked at the judgment. Man, we're really just talking about the way that people judge women today. It all comes back.
It has a theme.
It's all the theme. That's the theme of my life. Everyone judging women. Yeah, I had my son in 2015 and it was like easy as can be. I took out my birth control, like got pregnant.
Did you have an IUD?
I had
So
the
nosy.
Nuva ring.
Oh,
which was,
okay. I had that for a little while. Yeah.
It's like it's a good one if you're not ready for an IUD, but it's gross.
But I couldn't psychologically get past the idea that like there's this thing in my vagina.
I know, like always, just sort of floating around.
And I'm afraid it's gonna like fall out or
it's gonna, I know it's a weird one. I was happy I have an IUD now and I'm much happier with it. Yes, I highly recommend. I feel like the IUD gets a lot of crap because you hear people's horror stories, but then the people who just have it and it's fine, it's like you don't. So I'm gonna go on the record as a person who loves their IUD.
Couple quick IUD questions. Yeah. How was the insertion? And do you have the Marina?
I have the
like, does it
let or something? But it's the same as
the hormones come out of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it turns out I have endometriosis.
Oh,
so,
me too.
Yeah, so you need the hormonal one for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I am
insertion
now
sucked, but I mean, whatever, it's done.
I'm now at the advanced age of needing hormone replacement because I just started having hot flashes and whatnot.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm doing a patch and progesterone pills, but I've been listening to these menopause podcasts, and a lot of them talk about if you have the patch, another option for people who have uteruses is to get the Mirena because then you have the progesterone going just to your uterus. So that's why I'm curious about the IUD. So the insertion was uncomfortable.
It was uncomfortable, but it wasn't like. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I did so much fertility stuff that to me, it's like you guys are complaining about this, But I mean, again, everything is relative. So it wasn't like the best day of my life. I also feel like now they can, most doctors are pretty willing to like give you pain meds and whatever, So
okay, good.
I thought it was fine.
All right.
Yeah.
Also, you had children. Wait,
I had a C-section.
Okay.
I mean, my son, my son came a month early, which at the time I kept saying to everyone around me, like, why? Why did I just go into labor a month early? And they were like, it just happens sometimes, it's just, and it's like, oh no, we just don't understand women's bodies. Because what was actually happening is I have a medical condition where if you have this particular gene and you have a boy, your body basically it's like salts the earth for all future pregnancies, which obviously I didn't know at the time, but yeah, when he came a month early, it was because my body was like, get out, and he was breached. So it was a C-section.
Your body hates men.
My body hates men. Yeah. Don't tell my husband. No. But yeah, I mean, with my daughters, it was, I tried to get pregnant again after my son. I had multiple miscarriages. I was like, I'm going to just do IVF, and I dove into that, and it kept not working. I mean, and
they would do a transfer and you get pregnant and then lose it, or
I couldn't
even make embryos.
I couldn't make the embryos, and I mean, I think we did 5 egg retrievals and 3, whatever it's called, transfers. Thank you. I'm like, what is the word? And none of them worked, and.
That must have been so
It was just
rough.
It was so rough, and it was so confusing because I'd had such an easy first pregnancy, and I was young. Again, I got married young. I mean, I had my son when I was 30. So it was, and at that time I was like 32 or, and like, well,
It's like
you're
in
older.
New York, that's babies having babies.
Correct. I mean, when I was pregnant with my son, my doctor said I was her youngest pregnant patient and I was 30, you know? So, I mean, it was just, this idea that they're like, oh, well, as you get older, I was like, I'm not older, you
Right.
know? And my mom had my brother when she was 40. I was like, this just doesn't make sense. And, but I had a friend who had gone to see a doctor who's an immunologist, and she was like, go try him. And he basically, you know, takes like 17,000 blood samples and it was kind of crazy. He was like, oh yeah, you have this genetic thing. You're never going to be able to carry a pregnancy again. And also you probably have endometriosis. So I did surgery for the endometriosis. I actually was able to get embryos from that after that. And then.
So it was the endometriosis that was preventing you from getting embryos.
You know, what's so great about being a woman is that they don't know.
I know.
They don't know. I mean, I have endometriosis. I have this gene. Which of these things were ruining my body? Which of these things were in concert with each other? Did one cause the other? I mean, who the fuck knows? Not any doctor.
How did what did he base, when he said you probably have endometriosis, what was that based on?
Endometriosis can only be really diagnosed with surgery.
Right.
But it was based on a lot of like factors in whatever showed up in the blood
Like
test.
looking at your genes and
Yeah.
things like that.
And like the fact that my son had come early and like the fact that I was 32 and couldn't get
Right.
a good embryo. I mean, you know, especially after having had a healthy pregnancy.
Right.
So I mean, I did surgery sort of under the guise of like, you might have this thing. Let's cut you open and see, which is terrifying.
Was
But
that laparoscopic?
it was laparoscopic. So it wasn't, again, like,
Still
it wasn't-
awful though.
It just was like, you know, it wasn't great. But then they got it out. And that's when they were like, oh, put in an IUD because endometriosis comes from getting your period, basically. So like, don't get your period again and you won't have any of these symptoms. And, you know, I had symptoms all my life and I just had never, again, it's like, oh, well, this is just what a period is.
Yes.
You know? So, I mean, it was just, by the time I got to surrogacy, it was like, I was so relieved because I knew what was wrong. You know, it was, I mean, there's a Netflix series that no one else watched except for me that's called Diagnosis or something like that. And it's really about like the New York Times column where they diagnose people who have sort of like mystery illnesses. And I watched that and I was like, it's the intense relief of like, yeah, you find out you have this horrible thing, but at least you know,
Right.
you know? And so being able to say like, I can just move on to surrogacy and not have any feelings about like, I'm not doing enough or I'm not trying hard, you know, so it was just this very long process and we found an amazing surrogate who I loved. And then I entered this realm of surrogacy where then you realize the judgment on that. I mean, and the judgment on the surrogates. I mean, that was the part that really offended me. Like, okay, maybe I'm an asshole that I'm not happy with my one beautiful son and I want more kids. Like, okay. But this idea that like women who become surrogates are like too stupid to understand, like
That they're being exploited? Is that the judgment?
yes, it's that they're being exploited. They don't, you know, meanwhile, like you can be a football player and get your head concussed. You can go to war and get shot at. You know, you can be a coal miner and inhale, you know, chemicals every day. But like a woman who's been pregnant before, like can't decide to be pregnant again. Like she's exploited. Like I just find that totally insane and rude, frankly. And our surrogate, you know, is very religious. She really believes that she is doing something beautiful that's not, you know, that she has very easy pregnancies. She gets to meet people from all over the country and world and build relationships with them. And she gets to bring life into the world. And I mean, to me, it's like this idea that she doesn't know what she's doing. It's just, it was just,
it's really infantilizing and patronizing.
Yes. And, you know, and so.
And also, just if I can get on my high horse for just 1 second.
Do it.
I have been left my whole life and I'm still left. However, I have just had an ass full of, to quote our queen Taylor Swift, I'm a very new Swiftie, they're vipers dressed in empath's clothes.
Yes. It's this idea.
Someone called Daniel, my husband became a Swiftie, and then I was like, I guess I have to
I
become
have
one
to
too.
get into this lore.
The fact that I just quoted Taylor Swift, oh my God, that's so weird. What's happening?
She gets you. She gets everyone.
Everyone.
At some point.
I know.
Once you start listening, you're like, all right. Yeah.
But yeah, this thing of like,
yeah, we're helping.
like last night, I was just thinking about my whole life. I always felt like this was the party. And now I know like left versus Democrat. I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. But like this is the party of people who care about other people. This is where the good people reside. That is what I've always thought. And I'm like really rushing. I'm being confronted with all of these people who identify that way that are like pretty bad people.
So judgment. I mean, it's the judgment. It's the, you can do whatever you want as long as it's what I think is moral.
Yes.
Right. And that is
sanctimoniousness and the righteousness.
Yeah.
And just the like almost violence that they're causing. And yes, I can imagine what the other side is saying. I can imagine what they're saying to everything I'm saying. But like the fascism of the like, you have to fall in line is really destructive.
Yeah. Well, and that I think is the piece that is scariest to me is the like, we can no longer debate things
right.
on a number of topics. But it's like the left is supposed to be reproductive rights, and then suddenly it's like you have Gloria Steinem saying it's like enslaving women. And
I didn't know she said that.
Yeah. And I'm standing here going,
I hate when heroes
right,
say things.
It was very hard for me, and it's why I'm not a person who shares a lot of personal things publicly. But I wrote this article in Washington Post about surrogacy because I was like, I cannot have gone through this and just stand here and let people keep saying these things because it's insane to me. And yeah, it was upsetting to me on behalf of the woman who is carrying my children. Of like. She is a goddess, and she is a very capable person who knew exactly what she was doing.
Right.
And it's just like this idea that like, I'm someone who can afford it and I'm exploiting this poor woman. It's like,
right. You're turning it into like Gilead.
Like, are you kidding? Like she's a woman who, she works, her husband works. They're both amazing. I mean, they both teach like financial literacy to kids in their off time. Like she volunteers as an EMT. Like this is not like, oh my God, I'm exploiting this person. It's like she made an active choice. She gets to do what is the kindest thing any human could do to anyone else, which is like give them children. I mean, it's just, I don't know. So it really like riled me up in a way that I had been like, oh, I can see the other side of it. Like before I'd met people who'd been surrogates. And then, I started meeting women who had been surrogates and I'm like, well, this is, because when you're on one side of it, you're like, oh, okay, I am doing a privileged thing. And like, maybe I am an asshole. It's like, you want to like, okay, all right, I'll beat myself up. Like, that's what we do as like, like white heterosexual women, like we're wrong about so many things and historically. And then, but then when it became like about this woman that I love, I was like, okay, like now I'm angry, and I'm very happy that in New York State, at the time that I was doing surrogacy, it was not allowed in New York State. And then hilariously, everyone's, favorite person who, abuses women, Andy Cohen, became like the big advocacy for it. Because I mean, for gay men, there's no other way to have children,
right.
So, everyone goes like adoption. It's like, guess what? Plan B exists and there's not as much adoption anymore. And that's wonderful. But anyway, it's
also as someone who did IVF,
yeah,
and felt some judgment, not a ton,
yeah,
but still like
it's become more normal.
Adoption is not easy.
No, adoption.
It's not easy.
Hard.
It's also a whole thing. So
just adopt. Like no, it's very difficult.
Yeah. Do you understand what just adopt means? It's not like that. Where was the judgment you were feeling, or that your surrogate was feeling? Like where was that coming from? Or from whom was it coming?
It was just people that I would talk. I mean, it was just amazing.
Oh, so to your face.
To my face,
wow.
Yeah. And the sort of the sort of flippancy of it, like, oh my God, you're so lucky that like you don't have to be pregnant. And I'm like, yeah, I'm so lucky that I can't just like have sex with my husband and have a baby like you did. Like, but wow, I really loved like shooting myself up with needles for years and going
having all
through
those
this emotional thing and having miscarriages. And oh my God, I'm so lucky to not be fat. Like that, like that drove me insane. I had so many people who were like, but you have a child, just be happy with what you have, and I was like, again, like you were able to make your reproductive choices without other people's opinions. Like I didn't get that choice. So this is what I'm doing. You do you, or like, I mean, it was amazing how comfortable people were. And again, then like, I mean, you become a mother and you realize how much people say that, whatever they think about your child. So I was already used to it on some level just by like being a mother in the world. But I was sort of shocked at the lack of empathy from especially people who had multiple children. It's like, someone with 3 or 4 children is saying to me like, well, you should just be happy with your one child. And I'm like, well, you've never been put in that position. Like I come from a family where I have siblings. And so that it was just, I wanted a bigger family. And again, if it hadn't happened, if there was no way, like, okay, but it's like the technology exists, the resources exist. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And it's not exploiting anyone. And like, I feel good about my choices. You can feel good about your choices. I know plenty of people who have one child and are thrilled. I know plenty of people who don't want to have kids because they think the earth is going to explode. Like, great, live your dreams. But this was my dream, to have a larger family. And so I was able to do that. And I was just shocked at how much people thought they could.
I just don't understand why they need to say it. Like, why say that? It's a perfectly good thing to say when you say to them, it's even not perfect then, but like there's a situation where it's like, I have found out I can only have one child. And then, discussing how great one child or whatever, that's fine. But like when you're in the process of trying to have more, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, people say all sorts of things. And I mean, the commentary, it's like I wrote this whole article that I poured my whole heart into. And then, of course, people are like, you're selfish. And it's like, okay. I mean, at the end of the day.
Selfish for wanting children, wanting genetic babies.
Who even knows? Yeah. I mean, the genetic babies thing is really fascinating. My husband and I had a conversation about adoption, and he was like, listen, we have one biological child. Like, I'm not sure that my husband was very much of the opinion of like, if you need to stop one child, like we can be done, but he didn't want to go through adoption. I think that for him was not what he wanted. And again, like everyone is entitled to make their own reproductive choices,
Well, all the people who are screaming at women who do fertility things about adoption, who have their own babies that came naturally.
Right.
Shut up.
Well, exactly. I mean, this is like the abortion people who have never been, it's not their, like once their child needs an abortion because their child has been raped and is now pregnant, suddenly they're okay with it. But for you, it's not okay.
Right.
And I mean, it's insidious, like the way that people sort of judge when they have not been in that position, and it doesn't affect them. I mean, that's the thing that sort of shocks me about it, is it's like, okay, if I was doing something that affected you, maybe you could have an opinion on it, but I'm doing something with my body.
You're not making them carry your baby.
Correct. So it's amazing to me where it's like, why is this your issue? It doesn't even affect you. But it's that, it's all about controlling women at the end of the day. And
the surrogacy thing is interesting. I have read some articles where women who are surrogates are interviewed, talking about why they chose it. And it's just like, as someone who did not like being pregnant, it's fascinating. You didn't like it either. Yeah. No. But there's people who really like it, and it's really easy for them. And that's like
our surrogate. It's funny because we had twins, and right after, I mean, my daughters are 4. She's been a surrogate 2 other times since my daughters were born. And one of them was also twins. And, we text all the time now, and I would be like, oh, so how are you feeling? And she's like, I'm feeling great. I'm like, oh, so you really are feeling. I was like, I thought you were like lying to me to like make me feel better when you were like super uncomfortable. And she's like, nope, I love it. It's great. I mean, I'm like, okay, like, yes. I mean, I think for some women, they've had easy pregnancies. I mean, it's interesting. My daughters were born in Idaho. Interestingly, the hospital that is at the center of this Idaho fertility stuff that the Supreme Court is now hearing is the hospital where my daughters were born, St. Luke's in Boise. And so many of the nurses at St. Luke's have been surrogates because Idaho is a state that is very friendly. There's different laws in every state around surrogacy, which is, I won't get into, but because of that, Idaho, it also has a large Christian population. And a lot of surrogates in the U.S. are very religious women who, what I like to say is like religious in the good ways, where they want to like help people. And so many of the nurses that I met at the hospital had been surrogates. And it was amazing to me over and over again how I heard where they're like, oh, my friend did it. And I saw the joy that it brought to this couple and to these people. And so I wanted to do it too. It wasn't like, oh, I thought I'd make some extra. It's like, it's not a life-changing amount of money. You know what I mean? So it's like, our surrogates, like she uses it to like pay for her kids to go to private school. Like that's great, but it's not, you have to be a pretty stable person to be accepted as a surrogate to begin with. You have to have already had your own children.
So that they know so that you're tested.
So they know you can carry a pregnancy. Yeah. And also like the stability of like already being a mother and all of those things. So it was amazing to me like how many nurses, it was just not the population that you hear of when people are angry about it.
Right.
But
right. What is the name of the genetic condition or mutation that you have that makes it so you can't carry?
It's like H1, 2 hyper whatever alleles, like what it's something like nonsensical. But yeah, I mean, there's been a study on it. It's really funny because I'm, my dad is Jewish and my mom is Christian. And so my mom likes to say that everything that's wrong with any of us is because of all the like Jewish disorders. But this is actually a thing that is like in Anglo-Saxon people. So there has been a big study in like Denmark about it. And, it's sort of this like really crazy. I mean, it's like something out of a sci-fi novel. It's like if you have this and you have had a boy, your chance of miscarriage on a subsequent pregnancy is like 99.4%. I mean, it's just like.
Has anyone else in your family battled this?
Well, so this is what's really funny, and this is the crazy thing about genetics that we sort of don't realize is like, everybody in my family had 2 girls and then a boy. My mom had 2 girls and then a boy. Her sister had 2 girls and a boy. And my grandmother had 2 girls and a boy. But my grandmother was only one of 2, which at that time is very unusual. And my grandmother was the oldest, and then she had a brother, and then no other kids. And no one ever thought, they were always like, that's kind of weird for a family of that generation, but okay. And now it's like, oh, obviously, like, and
she couldn't get pregnant.
She couldn't get pregnant. And you just don't think about like what the heartbreak of that must have been, where she probably tried over and over again for years and years and years and just never, and never talked about. I mean, it wasn't something that was talked about. It wasn't, it's always like, what are the conversations with people in your past that you could go back? I would love to go back and talk to my great grandmother about that and be like, what happened here? But it's entirely genetic. So
will your daughters?
I'll absolutely get them tested for it. I mean, it's certainly, I'm like, I'm like, well, I know I have endometriosis. I know I have this thing. So they are going to start armed, with information. And one of my cousins who was going to do IVF anyway, she implanted a girl first because she was like, I know we want to have more than one kid. She's like, and I don't feel like going through the testing for this. She's like, but I have embryos that are girls. Like, I know I can do this and that'll be fine. So, anytime that people study women's health, we just get more information that can be beneficial. And it does not have to be the end of the world. So, yeah, knowledge can be power.
Amen.
Thing. Yeah.
I mean that in the good religious way.
Yeah. Good religious people.
Let's take a quick break. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. We all carry around different stressors, big and small. For example, and I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable, but my dad died. It's weird that I'm laughing.
Yeah, but that's what you do when you're uncomfortable, right?
It is, yes. Look, you guys know, it was a while ago. Not a while ago, it was in July. However, I just had a birthday go by, and it's about to get very real. I'm sorry. I had the weirdest reaction. My reaction was, this is my first birthday without my dad. So that I would say is a stressor, both big and small, but more big than small. When we keep it bottled up, it can start to affect us negatively. Therapy, or evidently right now, is a safe space to get things off your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever's weighing you down. You guys know I am such a fan of therapy. It has helped me immensely. I recommend it for everyone. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/bestfriend today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/bestfriend. Allison Rosen is your new best friend is supported by Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Tropical Smoothie Cafe believes you deserve a little vacay every day, not just once a year. Tony.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, you deserve a little vacay every day.
You had the sound of a question there.
No, I'm just saying, hey, Tony, every day. Get on Tropic Time with bright and refreshing smoothies, tropic bowls, wraps, and flatbreads from Tropical Smoothie Cafe. You're on Tropic Time now, not while you're on the clock.
Duh.
The second at Tropical Smoothie Cafe, fan fave summer mocktail smoothies just hit the pool deck. Summer mocktail smoothies are back and more refreshing than ever and only here for a limited time. Head in and try the fan favorite Island Punch, Mango Berry Cosmo, or Watermelon Mojito smoothies today. Now, my favorite is the Island Punch smoothie. It has peach, guava, passion fruit, mango, and pineapple. I said pineapple, funny. I said pineapple.
Pineapple?
Yeah, but I also put the emphasis in a weird place because it's more like pineapple there.
Maybe that's how they say it there. We
pineapple.
don't know.
That's right. At the Tropical Smoothie Cafe, they do things their own way. I've become such a fan of guava. Where do you stand on guava?
I'm not too experienced with guava, if I'm being honest.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It is refreshing. It is tropical. It'll turn your day around.
That's the big three. That's what I want.
No, really. I think that I'm going to divorce my husband and marry guava. One bite of the Tropic Bowls from Tropical Smoothie Cafe, and you'll instantly feel like you're cabana side. Enjoy sunshine by the spoonful with the acai bowl from Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Join them for a pineapple, mango, and watermelon soiree all summer long. Grab a refreshing island punch, mango berry Cosmo, and watermelon mojito mocktail smoothie, and meet us poolside. I'll be the one in the giant hat under the umbrella. Visit one of Tropical Smoothie Cafe's 1,400 plus locations or order online or through their app.
Hey, it's Todd Perry from Allison Rosen's other podcast, Allison and Todd After Hours. And I think the big reason why younger people really love our show is because, let's face it, we're pretty hip.
I'll tell you exactly what I read. I don't need to hide it. I was reading a book called The Menopause Manifesto.
To hear more, check out patreon.com/Allison and Todd. Patreon.com/Allison and Todd.
Okay, we're back. So you said that any time there's like health stuff, your mom says it's from the Jewish side. Do you regard that as anti-Semitic?
Oh, this is a great question because my sister and I talk about these things all the time. It is funny because I grew up in a household where my mom was from New England and my dad was from the South. My dad is a Democrat and my mom is a Republican, and my mom is Christian and my dad is Jewish. So I grew up in a household of like, you can be totally different to someone and have differing opinions and still love them. So the last few years have been very interesting for me as we as a country sort of have decided that we can't speak to anyone with differing perspectives. But yeah, my mom does have some like hilarious stereotypes and I enjoy them every time. But
Like what?
yeah, right now the world is so anti-Semitic that to me
Oh,
is
yeah,
like
I understand.
the least. I'm like, you know what? You do you.
Yeah.
Like, people who, like I have a friend one time who said something about like Jewish people and like the way that they handle money. And my husband was like, this person is anti-Semitic. And I was like, oh, like it's not really. And now I'm like, that person is the greatest ally, a friend that I have. It's like, so I mean, yeah, it's really fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, it's been fun to sort of watch, like to grow up in two different cultures and sort of see how that manifests and how people blame each other for things. It's also the anxiety that everyone has is, Jewish fault. But of course, my mom is also anxious. So
That being said, there are a lot of health things that are.
Oh my
like when I
God.
was
I
going
mean-
through, for all the genetic testing, it's like there's a box you check if you're of Ashkenazi heritage. So there are all sorts of
oh my God,
genetic
so many things. And I got tested. I mean, it was so annoying. Like when we were going to have kids, my husband and I got tested. Like, well, we'll test you first because you're half, so you probably won't have anything. And then, of course, I had something, called like familial dysautonomia, where if you have a child with that, it's like they live for like 10 days and then they die a slow, painful death. So I was like,
Jeez.
ooh, okay. And of course, then my husband got tested and he had nothing. And he was like so pleased with himself, and I was like, hey, like this is annoying. But yeah, I mean, if two Jewish people are having a kid, they test you. So I mean, it's not unfounded what she said. It's just funny that it's my disorder is very Anglo-Saxon.
Right.
Yeah.
So did your parents have a lot of debates about stuff, or did they just sort of respect that they were each on different sides of things? Was it a real James Carville, Marley Matlin situation?
It's kind of like that. Yeah. I mean, both my parents are lawyers, so there's a lot of debate, but they were always really respect. I mean, the thing that I grew up with, and I have to give my parents, after just shitting on my parents, I'm going to give them credit for something. And I adore my parents.
I don't think you should on them.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll see if my mom listens to it, because then I'll hear about it.
No, I don't think you did at all.
Great, excellent. You hear that, Mom? I didn't. No, my parents were very supportive of each other. Like we went to, my mom came to synagogue on high holidays. My dad went to church on, Christmas and Easter. My grandmother, who was very religious, I think, my mom, my grandmother was just so happy that my mom was happy. You know, my grandmother, my very
Oh yeah, that's lucky because I don't know what time it was, but there's a lot of people who would not be thrilled with that situation.
No, and I think there's this joke, and my mom was married before, and it didn't work out, and you know, to sort of the kind of man. I mean, he was like literally a professional hockey player, so he was exactly what her parents wanted, and it wasn't a good marriage, and you know, so I think, and when they met my dad, he was like, well, you know, I know you're not thrilled that your daughter's, you know, marrying someone Jewish, but like, look on the bright side, we'll be home every Christmas. And, and I mean, he was really like my grandmother's favorite because we were there for everything that my grandmother wanted because we didn't have to compete on that level.
Right.
But, you know, my grandmother sat on, you know, up on the bima with me when I got bat mitzvahed. I mean, and she was like, you know, went to church like 2 or 3 times a week kind of person. So, I think there's this view of like religious people as sort of being judgmental. I think there's the other side of that. And I really saw that with my grandmother first and foremost. But yeah, I mean, my parents, I would say it was a bigger issue for them to be different political parties than different religions. But now, you know, my dad has become more right wing as life has gone on. So my mom has won that battle, I think.
And how do you feel about that?
You know, we have a lot of debates we still debate, you know, and I mean, it's funny because my dad went to UVA and he was part of a group called the Gentlemen Protesters where they were trying to integrate UVA, but they did it in coats and ties. And gentlemen protesters, and it's actually
integrate. It's a racial integration, right? Just in case someone's like, "What does that mean?"
Yeah. At the time, I mean, my dad grew up in the South. My dad was born in 1947 in the South, so my dad went to segregated school until high school, and then he went to college that was segregated, and so they. So it's actually like really lovely now. If you go to the University of Virginia, there's a little plaque that talks about the gentlemen protesters and you know what they did for civil rights, and it's something I'm very proud of and. It's hilarious because I listen to my dad now and, you know, the way that he talks about protesters. And I'm like, and he's like, yeah, but we were, you know,
in
civil. We were in suits and ties. You know, we weren't, you know, whatever. And I mean, it's really, it's funny. You know, I sort of wonder, I would love to see like a conversation between his like 20-year-old self and his 76-year-old self because they have very differing opinions. But my dad is a very informed person. He, you know, reads, he's very well versed in history and politics. So whenever I debate with him, it is certainly a fair fight. You know, I don't feel that I think there are some people who debate when they don't know what they're talking about, and he certainly does. And yeah, everyone is entitled to their opinions, you know, but we've definitely sparred, I think, most over women's healthcare stuff, which I see as being a leading reason to vote. And it is not as important of an issue to him. And that pisses me off because I'm like, you've had 2 daughters who've both dealt with various things. And, you know, it would have been a very different world if we did not have Roe versus Wade, if we did not have, and I mean, the fertility stuff that's, you know, happening out. I mean, all of that stuff has just, you know, really fired me up in a way that I think he is a 76-year-old Jewish man in South Carolina. It doesn't fire him up quite in the same way. So, you know, but yeah, so we have healthy debate in our family.
Does he feel like he was wrong in the past for being a Democrat and now he's a Republican? Or like, how does he square that?
No, I think he, no, because I think that in his era, racial justice was the cause for him, was the most important cause. I think now he is very much,
yeah, I just want to make it clear. I wasn't suggesting that he regrets having that protesting or anything. But I'm just wondering someone who has swung to the right, like, what do they feel about their former views?
Yeah, I think that he feels that the Democratic Party has let him down more than that he feels that there's a lot happening. And I won't speak for him on those things, but I think, you know.
Tony, get him on next week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I always say, I'm like, you know, you post a lot of stuff. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad that you're at this point in your career and also whatever. But
I should follow him.
You should.
I think I was at one point.
Yeah, Robert Rosen. He's very active on Facebook. Yeah. Yeah. But I think that he feels like he is a centrist Democrat, and I think that he feels that the party has left him. And I try to explain to him that it's actually the inflammatory media has, I think that we sort of highlight on both sides sort of the most extreme people. Like, I don't think most people who are Republicans agree with like Marjorie Taylor Greene, but that is what is getting attention. So that is what people think that Republicans are, so.
And also online, like what you're saying is making me realize a lot of the stuff that I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's people on Threads.
Correct.
It's not all progressives.
Correct. And I think I think I have really tried and massively failed to sort of protect my mental health around reading all of this stuff, because you get in this like rage spiral, and then my mom will send me stuff and I'll be like, this isn't even real, but I'm sure that I fall trapped to that as well. So I wish that we didn't live in an era of that, but I think social media has just inflamed people to such an unbelievable degree that we feel like we're so far apart, when actually I think most people are closer together than they believe that they are. But it's become this like us versus them thing. So I think that's kind of where my dad, it's like he feels like he's been the same forever, and other people have moved on with him, which again I think is just also generationally what happens. Like, I'm an elder millennial. Like, I look at some of the stuff with Gen Z, and I'm like, I don't understand this, but maybe I'm not meant to, like maybe I've now entered like my cranky old lady era of being like, these kids today, like I think it's just a rite of passage. So
I'm sure that I'm in that era. I hear some of the conversations Daniel and I have, and I'm just like, oh my God, what happened to us? Who are we?
Yeah. But your concerns are different at different stages of your life. And that's also, which is why, listen, my son who is 8 really thinks that he should be allowed to vote. And we have this conversation a lot, and it's like, he's like, my future is being decided, no offense, by like a president and Congress that are not going to be affected by these decisions.
Is he a young 8 or an old 8? Because I have a 7-year-old who is not at all at the level where he would say something like that.
Well, if you ask my son about other things, he's oblivious.
Okay.
He's just a very...
He's a political wonk.
He reads The Week Junior, and he thinks that he really likes political things.
Okay.
He thinks he's going to be president, and I try to explain to him that I don't think, I don't
think you want that life.
I don't think you want that life, and I don't. He's has
he already made some mistakes?
He's a small Jewish man. He's not. I don't think he's.
Everyone
appealing.
loves Bernie. I mean,
loves Bernie. That's true. So maybe it'll happen for him. But yeah, he has some good points. He's like, I am a full person. This affects me. Like, why? Like the arbitrary age of 18. He's like, and I probably. And then I'll bring up things like, well, some people can't read. He'll be like, being able to read is not a prerequisite to vote. And then I'll be like, okay, well.
Oh, you mean like some 8-year-olds can't read?
No, some like, like if you're 40 and you can't read, you're still allowed to vote.
Right.
If you're, and then I would say, well, it's like you don't know enough. And he's like, people who are, sort of mentally incapacitated.
He's saying that there's people who he's like more equipped to vote than all these people who have a vote.
Right. So
it's a strong argument.
It's actually been really funny, because I am like, I can't argue with you, because you're sort of right, but also we have to set some boundary. And I don't want to say like most kids would just vote for who their parents told them to vote for. Yeah, but so generationally, I think everyone has to come at it from their own angle.
Would he vote for who you guys think he should vote for, or is he, informed about the different candidates?
He is. I think his issues, his number one issue is the environment. Which I think as an 8-year-old human living on this planet is probably the correct thing. He gets he went to like a protest when Roe v. Wade was struck down and came up with a very clever sign and whatever. But I don't believe that. I think that is related to me. But I would say for him, it's children's voting rights and the environment are his 2 leading issues. So, we'll see.
That is so cute.
It's so cute and also so exhausting to listen to.
So he is going to go into politics or become a lawyer or something. Possibly.
God, I hope not. But yeah, probably.
And then what about your daughters?
I think my daughter Joy will,
Is she the Taylor Swift fan?
She is the Taylor Swift fan. She will be an actress, I believe. She is very in touch with her emotions, shall we say. And I think my other daughter, Ray, will probably be like an engineer or a doctor or something. She seems to have that brain. She's like the grittiest person I've ever met. You know, she like, when she was 2, she would like fall down and like kiss her own boobies. You know, like she's a much stronger person than anyone else in our family is. So yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see. They're all so different. I mean, twins is like, I live in a sociology experiment. 'Cause they're fraternal. So they're as different as 2 people can be.
Right.
You know, yeah, I said to all of them this summer that I would take each of them on like an individual trip because they all want alone time. And so my son is coming with me to a book festival. That was his choice. One daughter is going to Taylor Swift because I went into my like fuck it era and decided to do that because I wanted to as well. And my other daughter decided she didn't want to go on a trip with me. She wanted to go with her dad to the beach. So
That's the gritty one, right?
That's the gritty. Yeah, she doesn't need a mommy trip. She wants a daddy trip. And she wants to go to the beach with her daddy. So yeah, it's funny to watch them and be like, oh, you're all just going to be so different. And it's fascinating.
That's so sweet. I really want to do a solo trip with my sons.
Yeah.
And I've been so tempted to say to Elliot, you know, someday I want to go on a trip with just you someday. But I don't want to say it until we're at a point where we can like plan it and actually do it. Because otherwise I feel like it's going to be like every day, like, Mommy, when?
I mean, my daughter's like, so when are we going to Taylor Swift? I'm like, it's in July. She's like, that's so far away. And I'm like, it's actually not far. I'm like, some people planned this like a year and a half ago. You know, like, but in her mind, it's like so far away. I used to take a lot of trips with my son because we went through so much fertility crap that I was like in my like treat yourself era. And so he and I would like go do things together. So he got a lot of that and I really enjoyed it because I feel like when you're with your kid on your own, you like see different sides of them. And I feel like with my daughters, they're always together. And I mean, you know, we'll do something for like a couple hours, but like I've never spent like days with one of the girls and not the other. So I'm actually like really looking, I mean, I'm hoping that Ray will let me do something with her that isn't just her beach weekend with daddy. But you know, it's like I'm sort of looking forward to that, of being like, who are you out of the context of your twin that you do everything with? So it's fascinating.
Do they get along like insanely well?
They're the best of friends and the worst of enemies.
Okay.
Like they will. I think there's also some psychological thing with twins where they believe that they are of each other. So it's like when they hit each other, it's like, oh, well, this is just a piece of me, so I can like really destroy them. You know, it's a really fascinating to watch. But yeah, they're very violent with each other, and then they are also like totally obsessed with each other, do everything together. So
like puppies.
They are, yeah. I mean, it's really codependency as a small human is just a fascinating thing to watch. I mean, but they, you know, they're each other's best friends, but they're so different. So it's going to be really interesting to see sort of how it evolves. And I think starting in kindergarten, they split them in classes, and I think that'll be good for them because they are so different.
Does that freak you out when they're violent with each other? Because when my boys hit each other, I want to instantly insert myself, and I'm like really trying to let them work things out between them.
Like let it play
but it's
out.
hard.
It's really hard because you're worried someone's gonna like poke an eye, you know. And again, it's like turning into that old lady of like, you're gonna poke an eye out with that thing, you know. Like that's kind of how I feel with them.
And then also I have a like, not in my house.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna turn this car around. Yeah, I mean it's funny because my sister and I are 18 months apart, so we're very close.
She's younger.
She's older, and then I have a brother who's 7 years younger. So so it's a different relationship. But my sister now is like my best friend, so it's I'm always say to them, I'm like, this, you know, like you guys have each other, and this is your, you know, it's like this is your partner for all of life. And then I'm like, I found it so annoying when I was little, and people would say that about my sister and me when we were fighting. You know,
oh well, that's why. That's the main reason in addition to knowing it's best to let them work it out, it's that I don't want to be my parents, because the second one of us would raise our voice from the other room, girls.
Yeah.
Girl. Like we were never allowed to work anything out because someone would yell girls. And one summer we forbade my mom from referring to us as girls because we were so tired of it. So we made her.
I'm Ali Michelle.
No, we made her call us. We had 3 options: boys, monkeys, or sporks. I don't know what my sister offered that one.
Great.
Yeah. And so she'd be like, boys, monkeys, sporks, whoever you are.
Stop hitting each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's hard because you want them to love each other. And then you remember, you're like, okay, but this is just normal. But yeah, I mean, sometimes, and you know, they all handle things differently. Like Ray is really mischievous. So she'll poke at Joy in ways that she will piss her off. And Joy will say that and then say like the meanest things because she's so like charged up. And she's like, I'm never going to speak to you again and I hate you. And it's like, well, that isn't necessary, you know? But on the other hand, it's like, oh, they're 4. It's fine. Like she doesn't actually feel that way.
That's kind of the Owen and Elliot dynamic. Owen loves to just needle Elliot.
Yeah.
And then Owen never says anything mean. He does have like he'll lose his cool and he'll be like, Wendy was barking and he goes, Wendy, shush down. Oh, but he'll be like, he'll get upset and he'll say, don't ever do that again. But Elliot got near Owen and he goes, ew. This is so awful. He goes, ew, Owen smells like boogers.
Yeah, do boogers even smell?
I don't know what that means. And then he got near Owen's iPad and he's like, Owen's iPad smells like boogers. And I was like, what do boogers smell like? It smells bad. It smells like Owen.
You're like, oh, yeah. It's like, it's so mean, right? It's like
really
kids come up with, kids are so
Owen
vicious.
seemed not bothered by it, but I was like, I was so perplexed and also like, that is cruel.
You're like, that's a
but
mean
what does it
thing.
mean? So
What does it mean?
yeah.
We'll never know.
I mean, I was like, I should just get close to the tablet and take a whiff, but I didn't want to with that.
Right. What do boogers smell like? Let's find out.
Right. I don't know. We haven't even talked about Potluck.
Oh my
with
God.
Ali
Yeah.
in its 16th season.
My 7 jobs. As you said.
Yeah. How what's going on with that? So this is your show that's on NYC Life?
Yes.
Which is on
It's like public TV in New York, which means we get to be delightfully dorky because it's just public TV is for nerds. And
does that mean that it is government funded?
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. It also means, like we don't have to worry about a lot of the stuff.
Advertisers.
I mean, it's delightful. It's like, we're very low budget. I mean, but it's
You
also.
film it in your house, right?
Film it
but
in
you
my
have an amazing
home.
house from what I can tell on social media.
It's delightful. Yeah. When you're in New York, we'll have to do an episode. It'll be so fun.
Oh my God.
It would be
Yes.
amazing.
I would love
But
to do that.
It's funny because people see like one angle of my kitchen and then they walk in, they're like, whoa. But yeah, I mean, it's just like my lovely low budget show where we learn stuff every day. You know, it's like, I get to.
Is it weekly?
It is not weekly. It is. I used to do 2 8-episode seasons a year, and now I only do 1 because
Okay.
after COVID, I had this same realization of like I can't do everything. But when we're filming a lot, and we just wrapped filming on the 16th season, and now hopefully it'll start in June. But yeah, I mean, it's really delightful to just be able to say like, oh, I'd really like to learn how to make this, or oh, I saw this cookbook, and you know it's most TV segments about cooking are like 3 or 4 minutes. You know, it's like if you watch like the Today Show and a cooking segment, I mean, it's whereas we have 8 or 9 minutes, you know, to sort of go through a recipe or go through a technique. And so it's really just, delightfully nerdy content.
What are some of your favorite episodes? I'm not saying what is your favorite, but like a few, just so people can get an idea of what an episode is like.
Well, I mean, I'll say like for this coming season, like some of the segments that we have that are really interesting is like we have the 4th generation lox maker from Acme smoked fish talking about like what is the difference between the words like lox and nova and smoked salmon, and
I don't
like
know
that.
The answer.
Well, you'll find out soon. It's like fascinating. You know, we have
I think of lox as like more firm and shiny, and smoked salmon as more. Do I have it backwards?
it's actually you would never know unless it's like one of those fun facts that once you know it, you'll never be able to stop saying it. But lox is actually not smoked; it is salt cured.
Oh,
And almost no things that we call lox are actually lox. It's just
smoked
we
salmon.
like the word. It's just smoked salmon, and then the rest of those words, gravlax and whatever, have to do with sort of how it's smoked. But lox is actually not something that really anybody eats anymore. I mean, there's a couple places in New York that.
so if
sell
you go into a like traditional deli and order lox, it's not lox.
they're giving you smoked salmon. Yeah, yeah,
Did not know.
yeah. Because lox is like a very salty cured thing,
Right, like a jerky.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing. So that was, so like, you learn something new every day. It's really great. We have like cookbook authors. I mean, one of my favorite cookbook authors is this woman, Priya Krishna, who did this book Indianish, and she has a new book called Priya's Kitchen Adventures, which is all about cooking with kids, but sort of from a global perspective because her mom worked for an airline. So she traveled as a kid. So I mean, it's like we have a segment with her that's just so delightful and, sweet. And, there's a woman, Anna Gass, who I love, who has a new book called Italian snacking, which is like my dream, like how to eat. So we did like this flourless chocolate cake with her. So it's like we do a lot of segments that are informative. Sometimes they're recipes, sometimes they're talking more about a topic. We did a segment with a vanilla, producer. So it's sort of like, how is vanilla actually grown? Why is it so expensive? What is the difference between vanilla paste and vanilla extract? So it's really educational, but it's very low key, which I like. So we get to sort of talk to people about food all day.
I think I know-ish, but what is the difference between in like, let's say ice cream flavors, French or gelato, which I know is your favorite.
My absolute favorite.
French vanilla. I don't know if they have all these flavors in gelato, but French vanilla, and vanilla bean.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is linguistic. I mean, most of the vanilla in the world comes from Madagascar. And then a lot of it comes from Tahiti or Tonga. And then French vanilla is like, it's not grown in France, right? I mean, that is not the, climate for that. But
No,
it's
they grow
like a
pate in
style.
France.
Exactly. It's like the style of it. A vanilla, vanilla bean is sort of what the vanilla flavor comes out of, like a bean that's like a pod. But I mean, it's something that is vanilla flavored versus vanilla bean flavored. I mean, it's just linguistic. There's nothing
I almost
different.
think of it as like the French vanilla is going to be darker yellow, in theory, more yolk or something, but I have no idea. The vanilla
but I
is
mean,
just going to be pale, and then the vanilla bean is going to have little dark flecks in it.
Yeah, I mean, the vanilla bean itself is just the flecks, and they don't put any color into, like, they don't sort of seep in. So, I mean, it's not, when you see like vanilla extract being a color, that's because it's alcohol, right? I mean, so yeah, like the French vanilla would just probably be more cream or more egg yolk in the ice cream rather than like the type of vanilla it is. So yeah, I mean, it's fast. Like, this is kind of the stuff we get into on the show, and it's really delightful because it's not like going to change the world, but it's sort of fun to know. And it also helps shopping. I mean, it's, I find that like the longer I do the show, the more it helps me shop, when I go into a grocery store and I'm like, what are the differences in these things? Because I think that we get so caught up in branding and words when we eat, which is one of the reasons that I love farmers markets. It's like sort of just produce and it's there. But I think especially buying products, it's easier to sort of know like, well, what is a legitimate thing? With vanilla, it's like, is it fair trade? Are the workers treated properly? Like, is it, harvested well? And then the other things of like, is it cold pressed? Is it from Madagascar? I mean, those are just sort of preferences. But if you know the differences, then you can explore them yourself.
Do you have any tips for us when it comes to buying and not falling prey to branding labels?
I think it depends on the category. I mean, I think the biggest advice that I can have is like, always just look at the ingredients. Like, if you don't know what the ingredients in something are, then there's perhaps a better version for you. I think, in certain products, I think seafood is one of the most difficult products to suss out. There's a group called, the Marine Stewardship Council, and they have like a little blue fish on a lot of seafood, especially canned seafood. Like, that's a good thing to look for. Words like organic and, fair trade, they do mean something, but they don't mean everything. But the more that sort of buzzwords are included, often the better that it is.
What about cage-free? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, eggs is like one of the most confusing. I mean, there's antibiotic-free, there's cage-free, there's organic, free range. I mean, it really, cage-free and free range and all of those really just have to do with the amount of outdoor space that the chickens get.
But like, in my mind,
none of it is better. The thing that I would look for is antibiotic-free.
Antibiotic-free. Okay.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I want cage-free to be like what's on the label, which is like a chicken with a whole lot of room.
no.
But I think really it just means like a pen versus something upsetting.
Correct.
Please, no one inform me. I can't handle it. It's too sad for me.
It's all, listen, like, again, if you have the opportunity to purchase from a farmer's market, some things are worth doing and some are not. I would say that eggs are among the things that are worth doing.
Do you get milk from a farmer's market? Do they sell milk at the farmer's market?
They do. I don't, because I have 3 children and they drink too much milk and I can't carry it home. So no. But I mean, yeah, it's like, you want to find organic, you want to find antibiotic free. I mean, at the very least, for sort of anything like that, antibiotic free is the most important thing. The welfare of the animals, you will never know from packaging and labels. So
that's good to know.
Unless
And
you are
upsetting.
buying it, it is yeah, it's very upsetting, but it's, unless you are buying from a farm, and you know the farmer and you have visited the farm, like the photo on the front of the milk of the farm is not what is happening, you know? So there are some that are better than others. You would have to like go deep on exploring that. The ones that are bad would never tell you that you're bad. So if you find a brand that you like and you see, great. But I mean, otherwise, to me, it's sort of the antibiotic free, you know, not being fed corn, you know, organic diet type of thing that is really all you can control.
Let's move on to our fun segments. Let's do Just Me or Everyone. Hit it, Tony.
Sometimes I ponder on something I have thought or done. Is it just me or everyone?
All right. Do you happen to have one?
I do. I'm so glad you gave me this question in advance because I really thought hard about it and I wanted to. It kind of reminded me of there's a Sex in the City episode where she talks about secret single behavior.
Oh my God. And she eats the stack of saltines with grape jelly.
Saltines, yeah,
that felt very contrived to me, even though I like the notion of it.
Well, it's like she's doing a cute thing. And so I was thinking about this and I was like, it can't be a cute thing, right? Like, so mine is that I have to like eat some food, but it is about food. Like I eat strawberries in a very particular way. Like I like to eat the outside first before the inside. And
I'm so delighted by this. Please tell me everything.
And I don't know why. It causes me like great anxiety to just take a bite of a strawberry. Like I need to eat it in this particular way. And I think, maybe it's like something texturally. I don't know, but it's.
So you remove the part with the seeds are just on the outside, right?
Yeah. And it's not like I'm like picking the seeds off, but I sort of like I like eat it in that like piece first and then I eat the rest of the strawberry. Unless it's like summer, like teeny tiny strawberries, then you can't do that.
Now, are you like nibbling around the edges or are you like scraping it?
Kind of scraping.
Like an artichoke almost.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Okay. Yeah, it is like scraping like an artichoke. Yeah.
But now, do you only do this when you're alone?
It depends. I think about it even if I'm not alone, but I'm not sure that I can help it. So no one has ever no one's ever been like, that's a weird thing.
You're sneaky with it, sounds like.
Yeah, I know it's a weird way to eat a strawberry. I know that. And I also but I have, you know, I like most foods, but I do have, it's like my husband will never eat off my plate because he knows like I might be saving, like some piece might be the piece that is saved, you know, like for the end. It's like, you know.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have to divide. He eats so much faster than me too. So he knows he can't. But yeah, it's like I think I like to eat my foods. It's like I don't mind if things touch. I'm not picky, but I like to sort of certain things I like to eat in a certain way. And I also I can't, like on brie, it's like I will not eat the rind. And so that at parties is really embarrassing because I have to like cut the rind.
So you just want the creamy center.
Yeah, like who wants the rind of a brie?
I don't mind it.
I don't want it. I just don't want it. But then it's awkward because it's like, where do you put it?
Yeah,
you know, like
it's
what
like
do you do with it?
Thank you for the sandwich. Can I put the crust somewhere?
Correct. So it's like, yeah, it's like I feel like but I think that I've like reached an age and just like not caring enough where like all of those weird food things that I want to do, I just do, and then I hope that people either don't notice or they've just never said it to me because it would be awkward to be like, what are you doing?
What other things do you do? This is fascinating. Let me just weigh in. I don't do that with strawberries.
Yeah. No, I've yet to meet someone who does.
Because there's someone out there.
There's someone. I'm hoping that I find them. Slide into my DMs.
I'm imagining all of the strawberry seeds and things getting stuck in my teeth. Does that happen to you? Maybe it doesn't happen as much as I would worry it would. Tony, any weird strawberry action?
No, not at all. I'm like having a hard time even. I understand what you're saying, but I'm trying to like.
It doesn't make sense.
It's
not logical.
Yeah. I'm not even looking for logic. I'm just even just. Because it seems like after you get that outer part.
Do you have like a real mangled mush?
Yeah, it just seems
dangling on a stem afterwards. Is that like what does it look like after you?
Strawberries are firm enough. I think they can handle it. They can handle my weird activities. Yeah.
I have a thing with strawberries. This is not at all fun like yours. But when I put them in my kids' lunch, I don't know whether to cut the stems off first or rinse them first.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, from how to do it. I mean, you shouldn't rinse them and then put them back in the fridge. That will make mold grow. But other than that, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, strawberries are also like the dirtiest fruit. So you really should rinse them quite heavily. So taking, I mean, I would say
that
like
makes me feel
taking,
bad. I just do like a real like cursory.
I mean, I do too, but I'm just giving you facts that I don't necessarily follow. But I would say like if you take the stem off first, you're probably washing it more effectively.
Right. This is true. Of course, now I'm thinking I wouldn't have to take the stem off. I could just give them the stems and they can just put the stems back in their lunchbox.
Correct. You can make them do the work.
Right.
Raise independent boys who can put their stem back in their lunchbox.
Okay. Yeah. What other weird food things do you do?
Now I'm trying, when I was little, I liked the only the outside of the Oreo and not the inside. But I try not to, again, because now I know too much about food. I really try not to eat a lot of packaged food. My other weird thing is like I used to pop popcorn and I would save like the half popped pieces until like I got to the end because it's like really satisfying to have them all together. But now,
and then you'd eat them.
And then I would eat them. Yeah. I mean, not like a kernel, but sort of a half popped.
Yeah,
kernel.
Trader Joe's sells something called like half popped popcorn. Have you guys seen this?
No, but I need to find it.
Yeah.
But now, I don't pop my popcorn anymore. I buy the bags of popcorn, so I don't get to do that as much anymore. But that's kind of my other weird food thing.
All right. I'm trying to think of other weird food things that you might. Okay, piece of birthday cake. Would you even eat that?
Oh yeah.
And then how are you eating that?
Well, okay, so I guess this is you're just bringing up. I'm not a huge frosting person, so it depends on how much. Like I like cake, and I like a little bit of frosting. So I will like scrape off some of the frosting, which a lot of people find very strange. But I think you're either a cake person or a frosting person, and it's interesting in New York. Like one of our most famous bakeries is Magnolia Bakery, and they have what people perceive to be excellent frosting. But I think that their cake is not very sweet. But because I'm someone who like doesn't like the frosting, the cake is very unsatisfying to me because the cake itself is not moist and sweet enough. But it's a real divider.
I find cupcakes in general to be difficult to eat. I don't know, like.
Yeah, it's too big.
There's too much frosting getting on my face. Like I would rather use a spoon or something.
When you come to New York, there's a place called Baked by Melissa, and they do mini cupcakes. And
yes.
They're very moist and delightful.
I have had Baked by Melissa.
Yeah. One bite.
And I love them.
Yeah.
They're
the
so
right
good.
size. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. All right. And then do you have a Podcast Pal product pick?
I absolutely do. I was going to say a cookbook because that's where my brain is. One of my favorite cookbook writers is this woman, Yasmin Farr. She does a lot of recipes for the New York Times. She has a new book called Cook Simply Live Fully, and it is exactly the way that I like to cook. It is like it's divided into 3 sections, which is sort of like the amount of time it will take you. And I like that the first section is called lap dinners. It's literally like quick and easy things. It's just like the recipe of recipes of my dreams. And my most recent cookbook was called 15-Minute Meals, so you can imagine how lazy I am as a cook. But I just love her. She uses it's all like light and bright flavors, and the way that she writes is just so friendly and approachable. And so that book just came out, and I've been cooking from it like every day. So yeah, I mean, you're getting recency bias in me of like what I'm thinking about, but that is a cookbook that I'm just like adoring right now.
Well, that sounds amazing. And I have on my Amazon storefront, if you go to amazon.com/shop/AllisonRosen, I have click the box that says Podcast Pals product picks, and I round up all the picks from all the guests on my show. So this will be in there.
Great.
And I'm going to put alternate endings. Wait, I have a question. Should I be putting alternate endings in there, or should I be putting your first romance novel? Probably this one because it's more recent.
I was going to say it's more recent. It has better reviews, and I need it to sell more now. So please buy it. I guess is the real thing. But no, I mean they're not companion books. I mean they're both books. They're both romances. They're both written by women. They both take you to a dreamy location. Alternate Endings is in Ireland, and Recipe for Second Chances is in Italy. But yeah, I mean, if someone's going to try my writing for the first time, I'd say go with Alternate Endings.
Get
Try
alternate endings, everyone.
Do it.
And I would like to remind everyone that I'm on Patreon. Patreon.com/Allison Rosen. All sorts of fun stuff there. You can get bonus episodes of my podcast, episodes of my bonus podcast. God, I don't know where the bonus goes. It's just a lot of bonus content.
So much bonus.
I know. It's called the Friend Zone. It's very fun, and it's sometimes behind the scenes and oftentimes stuff that I can't share with the main feed goes there.
We love that stuff.
Are you teased? Are you titillated?
I'm so titillated. And I also just want to say, like, if people like listening to people, they should pay them. So
Thank you.
Patreon.
Patreon.com/Allison Rosen. You can get an annual subscription and then you get 2 months free. And then also I have my book that was just re-released with new material, Tropical Attire and Courage and Other Phrases That Scare Me. And then I have merch and I have a Substack, Allison Rosen.
Substack.
I love it.
You heard that last week.
I
She
did?
forgot.
And you reacted the exact same way.
Oh, no.
Add that to our list of aging.
And when it happened on the show, you immediately went, make a drop of that.
I have zero recollection.
It's amazing.
Wait, who said that? Play it again. Don't tell me.
Substack.
Now tell me.
Mark McConville.
Oh, fuck. I have zero recollection of reacting that way when you played it. But when you played it, I was like, did I tell you to get that or did you just grab that on your own? But what do we do about the fact that I have no memory?
I don't know. If you find out, though, let me know because I'm that way with most things now, too. So
I'm someone who has a good memory.
I
think of myself as someone who has a good memory is what I mean to say. So the fact that I have, I mean, I'm not talking about like kind of like I honestly, I don't believe you, Tony. I think you're fucking with me. You're sure I reacted that way.
I am 99.9% sure.
Listeners, do you recall me having any reaction to this? Have you heard this drop before?
I think he's going to just find the clip and put it in the episode is what could happen.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah, Substack. Okay. Plug all your things, please.
Oh, thank you so much. You can find me. I'm most active on Instagram because Twitter and Threads scare the bejesus out of me. And I am at Ali, _Rosen on all platforms. And yeah, my most recent novel was an Amazon editor's pick. So that means
That's
someone,
so cool.
Yeah, someone other than my mom thought it was great. It's not just me. It's called Alternate Endings. And my most recent cookbook is called 15-Minute Meals for all those who are lazy among us. And yeah, I have a newsletter that I do every few weeks called Happy Books, where I post about one cookbook and one novel.
And where do we sign up for that?
Ali-Rosen.com. So that's, yeah, those are all my things. Those are my 17,000 jobs.
Wonderful. Is there a way that we can watch your show?
Yeah, it's all online. It's
Okay.
on nyc.gov/media. But it's everything is linked. My website is the place for like, hi, this is a woman who does too many weird different things. And if you like any of them, you can find them there. So yeah, I would say my website is usually the easiest place to find it. But yeah, all 16 seasons of Potluck are available. You can watch them if you would like to, listen
Feast your
to.
eyes.
Yeah. And I also think it's like soothing. It's like good, like I'm cooking or I'm folding laundry or like, it's like that. It's nice. It is not Baby Reindeer. Will not pull you in that way. But it is soothing, happy content. That is my brand. Just, give people some happy things.
I got quiet for a second because I'm like, wait a minute, is that my podcast too?
Right. Just
I
give
might
people
just
happy
piggyback on
things.
your brand
But I think that's okay because we piggyback on each other's names.
and
So-
each other's husbands'
Right.
names.
So, I mean, might as
yeah.
well.
All
Yeah,
right.
just
Yeah.
keep things
Pop on my
happy.
after you watch 16 seasons. Right. Listen to my podcast. Tony, what about you?
Just the Motion City soundtrack tour starting soon, so come out. We'll be coming to a town near you, most likely. So check out motioncitysoundtrack.com for dates and tickets.
Wonderful. Ali, thank you so much. I'm so glad you took the time because I know you're staying like far across town. So thank you
Yeah, I'm
so
in Santa Monica. It's
Yeah.
really delightful over there.
It's
a whole
nice over
different
there.
City.
Are you near the beach? Are you on the beach?
I'm not on the beach because I didn't want to pay to be on the beach.
yeah, it's premium.
And especially because it's not even that sunny today. So good job me for doing that. But yeah, no, I haven't. Most of my friends live west. So
Okay.
I usually stay with them. But I'm doing an event at Zibby's Bookshop, which is a lovely bookshop owned by the amazing Zibby Owens. And so I figured I would stay over there for once. So it's a real LA eye-opener for me.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you again, listeners. Thank you for listening. I love you. You matter. Goodbye.
Hey, do you know about the Allison Rosen show? Rosen